All right, good evening and welcome back to Your View with me on Khopotse JJ Tabane. Thank you. Come in there for the news feed. Of course, Wednesdays is Africa Roundtable night, and Sibuso Kaba and Advocate Mantula are my guests tonight. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
You all right?
JJ, evening, Jumbo Africa, Dumela, Pula Kyo, JJ.
Thank you so much. It's been a while. Bro, let me start with you. Tomorrow, Sobukwe's birthday often is ignored, isn't it? I mean, there's no song and dance, and sort of, it just passes like any other. I mean, I'm here to hear of a Sobukwe lecture. I'm sure it's there, but it's not hyped up like we've seen with other leaders. What does that mean? Does it mean that we have, in a sense, resigned, from Pan-Africanism?
Not necessarily that we've resigned as a society, but unfortunately, the platforms that are supposed to magnify this question have not been successful to do so, including my party in those platforms. Other parties, because Sobukwe is the son of Africa. Therefore, is much bigger and should be celebrated much bigger, particularly on his role, on his life that we.
So are you saying we're failing? There's a failure of championship. So we don't have a vehicle that's championing his legacy, because there's so much that he has done, so much that he has infused into our, our philosophy, our thinking, and so on. That doesn't see the light of day.
There's a question of championing, but more seriously, there's a question that even Verwoerd highlighted in his years, that Sobukwe as being highlighted, it's a danger to the system that he has put up. So because of that danger, because the current system continues the legacy of apartheid that suppresses the workers and the Africans in general, and keep them in their place, which is in the kitchen, in the garden, and in places that are low. So when you start magnifying these kind of personalities, it then changes and make the African move where he's supposed to be, to want to be where he actually supposed to be. He moved to assert his interest in the world.
Do you think that his influence, though, has been muted, right, in our politics? Even when we are talking about Pan-Africanism, you remember during the Mbeki era, we were talking about African Renaissance. It is almost like it felt to some people, and I don't have a particular view, but it felt like almost like, what is this thing when you have a song that they remix? They remix, a remix of Sobukwe's initial philosophy, mutating through Biko, then African Renaissance suddenly, and now that also has disappeared from our lexicon, disappeared from our discourse.
I will say that when you are talking about has he been left out, I will say erasure, neglect, silencing, deleting of Sobukwe from the archive, from the main server of our community body politics. For me, there are three major events, JJ, for 2019 when you are thinking of Sobukwe. The first, 1949, when he was a leader of a SRC, Fort Hare University. That's where you see the character of a young Sobukwe. You see, when Sobukwe was released from prison, 1969, it's almost, one can say, 50 years on. Now you look at Sobukwe turning 95 tomorrow. You look at the character of Sobukwe, of the wife, of the child. Dini Sobukwe passed on this year. Not a lot has been said by the state, JJ. For me, I'm more concerned about children at school. Those who are studying social science or history. Do they have a Sobukwe curriculum that can cover on the legacy of Sobukwe and build Sobukwe's vision of United States of Africa? The vision of Sobukwe where you say, we will dream of Africa, we will breathe of Africa, we will think of Africa. So when you think of that, I think maybe the project around the African Renaissance, JJ, was around Pan-Africanism of people like Sobukwe. You look at Soweto, our Gauteng Minister of Arts and Culture, JJ, I want to dare challenge them to say, you have Sobukwe's house, that Sobukwe used to live in Soweto, Mofolo. Is that house known by the ordinary people of Soweto as the site of the struggle? It's in the same vicinity of Joe Kabi. So when you think of Sobukwe's legacy, JJ, for me, I say two In the last 25 years that you want to say we have honored Sobukwe, I think people like Tamiwa Plakis, Busiso, they have done justice.
Yeah.
That in the last 25 years, here you have a black writer and author navigating Sobukwe's life with the first volume, at least, which is the life history of Sobukwe. You have Benjamin Pokrant, who has written about Sobukwe, but those were articles.
Yeah.
Were not the life stories of Sobukwe, despite others might say, but Benjamin Pokrant is the authority on Sobukwe. But you find that Tamiwa Plaki and the people who lived with Sobukwe, those are the authorities that I think, JJ, we should cherish and we should constantly call them to share with us the life and times of Robert Sobukwe.
Yeah. What are the other practical things we can do to infuse some of what he stood for? I talked earlier on this week to the daughter of Nkwame Nkrumah.
Samia.
Right? And I mean, what you're saying about Sobukwe is exactly, it reflects exactly. But Nkwame Nkrumah would be maybe lifted higher as if he's saying something profoundly different from what Sobukwe articulated. How are we going to get this right? How are we going to popularize right, the thinking of someone like Sobukwe?
I think you are hitting on the nail on the question of the thinking. Because also we normally fall into the trap of looking at personality and timeline only without understanding the thought and the paradigm on which he stood. What can be done? Sobukwe cannot be discussed outside the 1949 program of the Youth League, which emphasized on what you just talked about earlier in your program, strengthening the institutions of African people, strengthening the institution that guides the lives of the African people. As long as we keep on being a nation, as Africa as a continent and as Azania here, keep on being a nation without an agenda, because we kind of float where the kinds of Sobukwe, the kind of Lembede, the kinds of APM does, their thinking need to be infused in the curriculum so that that visibility, that understanding, the drive that the Sobukwes learn from Marcus Garvey's as well, that can come through, that Africans must start taking their role in the world and understand that we cannot come as beggars. And that cannot happen on its own. It has to be driven. And the biggest social engineering institutions are schools, which has to come through. Secondly, in the area of work, African professionals have to start stamping their authority. We run those hospitals that are dilapidated. We run that public works that does not fix those hospitals. And as African professionals, we have to come up and live what Sobukwe taught us, that education is for service of Africa.
Correct.
Can you tell me, if you use the template of Sobukwe's thinking, right, and you fast forward to 2019 and assess the last 2 decades, right, what would you say are the gaps, right? Because if you talk to anybody from the ruling party, they'll argue that no, we have implemented Pan-Africanism in what we are doing. We are talking to our neighbors, we are accommodating our neighbors from all over the continent. I mean, forget about the sporadic violence here and there of xenophobic violence, they would say, right? But in general terms, we are infused into Africa. We are next year we're going to be chairing the AU. We are part of economic regional bodies, etc., etc. Would you assess the last 25 years that way? If you had to put the template of Sobukwe's thinking here, are we failing? Are we halfway there? Are we making progress, or is it all hopeless?
We score only 25%.
That's a fail.
That's a fail. Because we still worship the 1884 borders that were put by Europeans. Even in the institutions like the AU that we say we have, but we do it within the confines of those borders. We have not broken through the previous colonizers' paradigm. Secondly, if you see how we fund those institutions are European institutions because they are funded by Europeans. AU is funded almost wholly by the French. more than our own governments. So whose interest it will end up driving? Will end up whoever pays the piper calls the tune. So we have not asserted ourselves in our own agenda, which is the first and the foremost paradigm. Secondly is the issue of land. We have not taken the issue of land. When you don't feed yourself as a nation, because once you don't have land, it means that someone gives you food, produce your food. We don't produce our own food. And the primary area of sovereignty is for us to provide our own food through our own agricultural programs. We have neglected agricultural issues. We are focused on maintaining and creating, through our education system, creating workers to maintain other people's design and other people's creations. We are not creating our own products. We are not creating even our own agriculture. So we are way behind of where we should be as the African
But
people.
is your assessment that we will ever get to a point, right, where philosophies such as Black consciousness, Pan-Africanism, and so on are infused into our political policy making? Because all the things that you are saying, I'm quite sure nobody, even in the democratic movement, will argue against you. But it doesn't look like there is energy or even appetite, right, to take those policies and translate them into everyday lived experiences of our people.
JJ, earlier you were speaking about African Renaissance as the then foreign policy in this country. It has moved to Ubuntu. African Renaissance, it was a Pan-Africanism at some point. When you look at the curriculum, when the young people in 2015 were crying around curriculum transformation, Sobukwe came out very clear. Many young people were talking about Sobukwe. Professionals that you are talking about. So, JJ, we're not talking about the teacher here, we're talking about the legal mind. Sobukwe was a lawyer. You look at the legal profession of this country, it is so silent on many injustices that are happening. Sobukwe will not have been happy about that. You look at the, like I say, curriculum. Sobukwe and the law. I think earlier this year at UNISA in May, JJ, we had an interrogation about Sobukwe and the law. Is our African jurisprudence really tackling the socio-economic rights of our people? Borre Pheko, Motsoko Pheko, as an international lawyer, he clearly articulated how Sobukwe viewed the apartheid laws, how Sobukwe looked at the land rights, the issue of the land rights, JJ. So I think, like we say, the fusing of Sobukwe into policy, it again goes along with the curriculum, the government, national government curriculum. Who's drafting government policy? You look at Parliament, every February, it is the state of the nation. You hardly hear the president honoring Sobukwe's birthday. I mean Sobukwe's passing, actually, to say this is a Sobukwe month. Let us think and emulate the ideals of Sobukwe. And Sobukwe, remember, like you have said, the character of Sobukwe is not only the timeline, but it is his philosophy that has been silenced to a point that even JJ today, if on your show I can say, can you play an audio clip of Sobukwe? Can we have a voice of Sobukwe? We will only see the visuals, but we don't have a voice of Mangaliso Sobukwe. That's how he has been erased and silenced and deleted in the national server.
Okay, we're going to carry on this conversation after the break. Sibuso Xaba as well as Advocate Mantula on the roundtable tonight, where we reflect on many other issues, including the legacy of Robert Sobukwe. After the break, we're going to take a look at some of the stories that are making headlines across the continent, and also reflect on one or two highlights of 2019 in our continent. Stay tuned.